All right, we are live. I appreciate everybody tuning in. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, we are on YouTube, we are on all kinds of things today. So today I have with me Nate Barger, straight out of Cincinnati. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, so he's not too far from me. I was actually got to spend the day with him yesterday, and it was great to finally get to meet you in person and spend some time with you and learn more about what you guys are doing and where things are going for you. So thanks for jumping on with me.
Nah, likewise, man. It was great meeting you and your partner, hearing about all your guys' exciting growth and the wonderful cities that you guys are investing in as well, man. Thank you so much for having me on, brother.
Absolutely. So for you guys that don't know Nate, I kind of ran into Nate a couple of years ago through some of his content, social media presence. Him and Mike Ely have a mentoring group that I know a couple of people that have been through. Key Lee out of Los Angeles went through there, knew you guys pretty well. I think he kind of introduced me to you back then. So I was a long time listener, first time caller, actually getting to meet you yesterday, but it's great to watch your growth. It's great to watch what you guys are doing. We're kind of we're in the same wheelhouse of commercial investing, but you guys are farther down the road than we are. And so I always talk about people getting in the right room with the right people. And so yesterday was great to finally connect in person.
Nah, it was, man. It was great to meet you, brother, and hear your story. You have an amazing story, man.
Yeah, so let's talk about your story. A lot of people listen to these podcasts or they listen to these lives and they think this isn't for me or I can't do it. And I love your story. It's an amazing story of triumph. So why don't you kind of take us back to kind of where you were at growing up and kind of how you got into real estate and how it's grown.
Yeah, thank you, man. And thank you, viewers. So I just really want to reach the people out here. Everybody has a story. So I like to dig in everybody's story. I'm going to tell you guys my story. And why I'm telling you that is because everybody can make it. It doesn't matter. It comes with your mindset and you deciding that you deserve to become wealthy. You deserve it, no matter what your background is. So I grew up in a normal blue-collar alcoholic family. My parents had us real young. They were both alcoholics. So we kind of raised ourselves, and then we lived in a neighborhood that was probably middle class, but went downhill when crack cocaine hit, and just became like it was impoverished community, a lot of drugs around. And I would if I go back to when I was like 4 years old, that's when I got traumatized. My dad, he hung me over a dam by my ankles, and I thought he was going to kill me. Now I didn't realize that till years later, why I had become like the person that I was. I was a bit of a tyrant. And so I started off selling drugs at a young age, got sent away to military school. And there I met some people that, would help me progress my drug dealing. And so when I got out, my whole community was infested with crack cocaine. It hit in the early 90s. And I started selling drugs on a street corner. I grew up with everybody else who was selling drugs on a street corner and just naturally started doing that because, I couldn't make no money. I worked at Rally's, I think was the only job I ever held. I had that for 2 weeks and I was making $4.25 an hour, and I come back and watch them make $40, $50 in one move. And I was like, man, I ain't doing that. And so I would go on to become a drug dealer and go to prison, a couple times. And I actually became, pretty large drug dealer. I ended up bringing like 330 pounds of weed in a week. And I was so paranoid at the age of 29. I got out of prison when I was 22. By the age of 29, I was so paranoid, Seth. I just thought, man, I'm going back to prison for a long time if I don't stop this. And the crazy thing was I didn't do drugs. I just was an alcoholic. I became an alcoholic. And I cried out to God. And God showed me real estate. So here I am with 4 felonies, with no income, no legit income, and God shows me real estate. And it's like, okay, how are you going to get that done? So it was all just life is just a list of challenges. And Seth, do you know that we make about 70 million decisions in our life?
Yeah, I feel like it.
And we do. And that's, on average. So you probably make a little bit more. You probably make 120 million because you're making a lot more decisions, right? But our life becomes a sum total of those decisions. It doesn't become the sum total of how we grew up or any of that, right? And so when I cried out to God, he showed me real estate. My very first year, I learned the bird strategy. We didn't even know it was a bird strategy back then. We were just going to cash out refi. And I pulled in, I think, about $360,000 over and above and beyond what I had in the properties. So I got all my cash back plus 360. I had to pay no taxes on that. And so when I went into my accountant, he told me I don't owe any taxes. That was a loan. I thought, holy crap, why isn't everybody doing this? I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And so that's what I focused my career on. And that would be a great story in and of itself, guys. But 2008 happened. I went bankrupt. I lost everything. There were days when I thought about going back and selling drugs again, because by this time I had a wife. I had two sons. When I was going bankrupt, I had a daughter on the way. And I just thought, man, how am I going to – I mean, McDonald's won't even hire me, Seth. What the hell am I going to do? Nobody will hire me. And so I used to always think, man, if I could just get a good corporate job, if somebody would hire me, I'd be happy. And then when the recession had happened, everybody lost their job. But guess what? I went bankrupt. But guess who couldn't fire me? Corporate America couldn't fire me, Seth. You know why? I didn't work for them. Yeah. And so I felt like, wow, nobody can fire me. I can still go out here and maneuver and do whatever I need to make money. And so I worked through the bankruptcy. I called my partner, Mike Ely, up. He helped me work through the bankruptcy. I emerged from bankruptcy in June of 2013. And June 14th of 2013, which oddly enough, June 14th of 1997, I got out of prison. Both synonymous dates for me. So every June 14th, I celebrate a little bit. You know, it's like,
yeah.
And so, but what I realized in life after coming out of bankruptcy 9 years ago, now I got about $250 million in real estate, and I'm really in a position to grow. I could grow a lot bigger, a lot quicker. But man, I like my time. I like to travel. I like to educate people. I like to show people. But me and Mike were like, over the next 3 years, we're going to get to $1 billion in real estate. But we're going to do it our way. We're not going to do it where we kill ourselves working 18-hour days, you know, which I know you're putting in a lot of that groundwork right now. You're probably not. Are you still working hours like that?
I wouldn't say 18, but yeah, it's definitely Monday through Friday, you know, 10 to 12-hour days. It just depends. But again, it's different when you're working for yourself. When you're building something versus somebody else. So,
well, I still work like that, but it doesn't feel like work at all.
Yeah.
You know, like this is technically work, but this doesn't feel like work.
Right.
You know, I'm hanging out with my buddy Seth in Columbus, and I'm hanging out with you guys. And so what I realized going through all that was that you could change your future. You could do anything you want in this country, at least. We were in Kiev, Ukraine last year before Russia invaded. Me and my wife were over there. We went to Chernobyl. We were just traveling. That's Eastern Europe. And unfortunately, no matter how hard they work, they don't have opportunities like we do over here. So you got to know how blessed we are just being over here, first off.
Yeah, yeah. So two things I want to kind of go back, because I think it's an amazing part of your story is a lot of people, you know, they may get into trouble when they're younger. They may, you know, even, you know, do something where they go to jail, they have a felony. And a lot of people, their story stops there, right? That whatever their situation was defines them, and it defines them for the rest of their life. And it doesn't have to necessarily be going to jail and a felony, but there's events in their life, which you said you had a pretty traumatic childhood. There's a lot of people where that trauma, it alters their future path. They're stuck in that forever. And for you to get out of both of those scenarios and just live a normal life is a huge success story. But for you to be able to find real estate when you did, and then grow what you have grown is, I mean, it's a miracle, you know, in all honesty. So how did you go, you know, again, you get out of prison, you got felons now, you're going to have, you know, normally you'd have a hard time getting a job. You'd have a hard time finding any kind of work. Like, what did that look like for you to get your first deal done? What was your first deal? How'd you get it financed? Because all of those things are going to come into play, right? If somebody's watching this and they're like, I've got something in my background that would prohibit me from getting a loan or would prohibit me from doing, you know, this is what they're telling themselves.
Yeah.
How did you overcome that?
So the banks don't really look and see if you got felonies. You know, they don't look at that. So that's a lie. First off, it's like what your partner said yesterday. Who told you couldn't get a loan, right?
Yeah.
Who told you your felony meant something? It means something to you, but you got to get past that. And so that's projecting first you gotta find a way to conquer your insecurities and fears. And a lot of times it's just going out there and crushing them and getting rejected. Get rejected, get rejected, get rejected. But don't settle for rejection. If a bank does reject you, that's not the only bank in the world. That's the bank that wouldn't give you the loan. And so how did I overcome it? Well, first off, I had to educate myself. Education was key. But back then, there wasn't the type of education that you got now. Now you can go on YouTube. You teach people. I teach people. You got people out here that are really making money, that have really done hundreds of millions in deals. Like, hey, man, no, that ain't how you do it. Here's how you do it, and here's why. Don't do that. I'm going to save you 10 years of your life. In 30 minutes, I'm going to save you 10 years of your life, right? Yeah. You can show people that because you've been down that path and you've done that. But it first starts with what the person believes they can get. If a person believes that they can't get anything, and I remember there was a guy on one of my jobs, he said, Nate, man, you don't know what it's like, man. I got a felony. I said, I got 4. What do you mean I don't know what it's like? I got 4. But he didn't know I had 4 because why? I'm not going around and complaining about him every day. Because complaining about him is not going to do anything. And, it's taking charge of your life. It's you determine the outcome. Nobody else does. And finding your why. Probably the most important thing. Because if it was just me, I told my wife, I wouldn't probably live in a big house and I'd be down on the ocean somewhere, fishing every day. But by having my why and knowing that's my goal up here, these are the circumstances to get to my goal. You think I care what these circumstances are to get there? I don't care. I could care less. Well, you're going to have to stay awake for 48 hours. Well, we need some coffee. It's like, who cares? Yeah. That's just part of it. I'm getting right here. Nothing's going to stop me. Why? Because I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my wife, for my kids, for my great, 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 great grandkids. I'm never going to meet them. But guess what? I'm going to change the trajectory of where my future goes for my family. You know why? Because all my family's poverty, blue collar poverty, alcoholism, drugs. That's it. Nah, me and my wife made a decision that stops with our generation. And we're going to do whatever it takes to get it done. So ultimately, a bank can't keep you from succeeding. They can help you along the way, but they need you as well. There are many different ways to get money. And you know that, Seth. You go out and raise money. You go out and get friends and family money. You can wholesale to yourself. We teach people how to wholesale. I don't have any money. Okay, wholesale to yourself. What does that mean? That means you're going to go, have you ever wholesaled to yourself, Seth?
Yeah, within our companies we have, yep.
Yep, so it's the same thing. It's being able to take the business plan and make it grow quicker. Like you said, most people, like you're insane. Seth just goes out and buys a 50 unit. But that's what people see.
Right.
But what you guys don't see is that he worked a full-time job and then went and volunteered a full-time job for free, for peanuts, so he could get the experience to buy that.
Yeah, and I think that's really it is like you said, figuring out your why, and then how do you get there, and then not letting anything get in your way of that. And like you talked about with the banks, I mean, I went to 5 banks and they all said no when I was trying to do my first deal, but the 6th bank, who I discovered through networking, said yes. And that saying yes changed, the trajectory of my life. And just like you, on your first deal, like if you, or somebody that's in your academy or somebody that was watching this, that's like, I don't, here's where I'm at today. Here's where I'd love to be. How do I get there? That's the you figured out what the end goal for you is. And then it's trying to figure out how do you get there. And that's where guys like me, guys like you, guys that want to give back, that's where we come into play and can accelerate people's lives. That's where you're changing lives. I mean, how can somebody talk to you and have an excuse? Because anything that you've had to endure or go through is either the same or worse than what they're probably going through or having to endure.
Yeah, and that's it. And there's people out there that have had it worse than me. But at the end of the day, this is it. This is it. There is no do-over. When you get to the end of your life, there's not like, I wish I would have did this different. You know what the number one thing people say they regret is on their deathbed?
No, I do not.
They wish they would have took more opportunities. They wish they would have took more risk. Don't be that guy. Bankruptcy's not the end of the world. I would rather go bankrupt again as opposed to sit here and live my life and say, well, I'm going to work till I'm 65 and I'm going to have $1 million saved up. And, we got enough money, Judy, to go and travel once a year. I don't want to live like that, man. I want to change the world. And so coming out of bankruptcy in 9 years and being able to buy several $100 million worth of real estate, you understand it's not the money. It's not your credit. It's the knowledge. Because if you got knowledge and you know how to do things, you can go do it over and over and over. You see Elon Musk sold his company off. Within 6 months, he was broke. Why? Because he invested all his money in his company. But now he's the richest man in the world, or maybe the second richest man in the world. Why? Because people that understand how to do things, you don't lose that. The bankruptcy trustee did not take my knowledge from me. And so the knowledge that you get, you can always go out here, Seth. You know it. You could start Seth over right now with nothing, and within a year, you'd be a millionaire, wouldn't you?
Yep, 100%.
And so it's the knowledge, guys. You guys got to get educated. It has nothing to do with money. It really doesn't have anything to do with money.
Yeah, and I think that's something that it was a huge mindset shift, right? Is when you're in the grind, when you're in the trenches, when you're working to pay the bills, or you're working paycheck to paycheck. We kind of talked about this yesterday, where it's hard to focus on anything else, and if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's really hard to help anybody else. And that's what I know, that's a motivation for both of us, is helping other people, is specific causes that we believe in, and helping them. Well, you have to have money in order to do that, and it's hard for you to think about the things.
That's right.
Sometimes it's hard for you to think about the things we're talking about, because you're like, man, I'm working 10-hour days, barely making it. I gotta feed my kids. I'm late on my house payment. I'm late on my bills. And it's not an excuse, because I was there and you were there and we've been there, but it's like, you got to determine, okay, here's where I want to go. And how do I get there? And for me, when I met Matt Robinson, when I reconnected with him back in like 2012, he showed me, I told you that yesterday, 3 things: read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, find a local real estate meetup and get involved and start networking, and then find a local mentor. Those are the three things I did, and it changed my life. And I know Mike Ely had a huge impact on you from what I've seen in our conversations, is, having that key person in your life, whether they live in your area or they're remote, and you can be somebody's mentor. You're in Cincinnati, but people that are in your circle, that are in your program, they're all over the country.
All over the country.
You're impacting people all over.
And nobody's going to knock on your door and become your mentor. You have to get out here and you have to go do it. You have to go find it. You have to say, hey, I'm going to sacrifice. You know what? I wanted to go hang out this weekend. I wanted to do this and that. But you know what? I'm going to go to some real estate conference, or I'm going to go over here. I'm going to drive around a neighborhood. I'm going to find somebody that's renovating a house. I'm just going to go up and say, hey, man, do you mind if I mentor you? If you could mentor me, just go find something. Do something with your time that's going to help you change your life, because we spend so much of our time entertaining ourselves instead of educating ourselves.
Yeah. And like you said, once you have it, you can never be taken away, which is why
like riding a bike, man.
Yeah. And I know for me and for you, highly confident that if something were to happen and we lost everything, we'd start rebuilding it the next day and have it back in a year.
Yeah. You'd have enough money to retire in a year because you got it. But it's hard for us to explain that to you guys. But you guys are 5 years away from retirement right now, no matter where you're at. You can be totally bankrupt. But what you wake up and you do over the next 60 months is going to define where you are at in 5 years. And every last one of you guys that is watching right now, you have the opportunity to become financially independent. And I'm not even going to tell you that you can live real well off $1 million. You can't. But at least that's a start. Your first million is really hard, right? After that, the second million and third million, fourth million, fifth million, they just start to come because you're doing the same thing over and over and over. You're just doing a bigger scale. And so by changing who you are and what you do, the way you view money, the way you view investments, the way you view your time, because that's the most important thing, isn't it? Your time. And you ask, why? I mean, because my time, I guard it. I guard my time because it's, you're sacrificing your life. You're giving away chunks of your life. And if you're going to give chunks away of your life to make money, make sure that it's in assets that are going to bring you in money forever. Go kill your W-2. I hate to say kill your W-2, but you killed your W-2, man. I'm proud of you for that, brother.
Yeah, it took my I never thought I would do that, but it started as a side hustle, but then it just got big enough to where it was like, hey, this doesn't make, it was costing me more to go to work than it was for me to be working on real estate. So,
Yep.
I had to
Yep.
make decisions on that. But
Yep.
so what did that look like for you? Like when you got started, you got into the first couple deals. Did you start off wholesaling? Did you start off flipping? Like how did you go from, felon, like you said, you cried out to God, you realized that real estate was kind of like the path that you wanted to go down. What did that look like for you from 2012 to now, 10 years? How did you guys scale to the way where you're at now? Or what did that look like?
Well, so when I went bankrupt, I still had the knowledge. And then I ended up meeting these guys, and I found a 97 unit apartment complex. And me and Mike had lost everything too. We couldn't really sign for the debt on that. And so what we did was we went and found these guys. Well, they couldn't sign for the debt on it either, right? So we weren't in any better shape. But we had the deal. You know what we bought this thing for? Set $13,000 a unit.
Wow.
It was less than that. It was $1 million for 97 units. So I don't know what that is, 12, 13,000 a unit. Um, and the owner was 82 years old. It was losing money every month because they thought, well, nobody's renting it. We'll just drop the rents. No, the place looks like crap. You got the 1978 carpet in there. That's why nobody's renting it, right?
Yeah.
So this was the original guy that built it. His family had it. His kids were kind of, I'm not going to say they were wealthy, but they were doing okay. They didn't want anything to do with it. And he's 82 years old. He needs to take this liability and turn it into an asset. So we said, well, we took it to a bank. We knew the bank was going to turn us down. And
Mhm.
then we took him the bank letter back and said, hey, look, man, nobody's going to finance that, man. It's losing too much money. And this was in 2013, coming out of bankruptcy. So we got him to finance it. So we had to go raise 150,000. He carried the other $850,000 on that property. And we just went out and did what you did. Friends and family borrowed, put it together. And then the two other guys that we ended up partnering with on this, there were four of us. They ended up being real good. They were good at finance because they actually had a mortgage company. And so that's how I learned about cap rates. That's how I learned about all that stuff, was hanging around them guys. They were really corporate guys. They weren't real
Mhm.
good at executing. So we had to execute on the turnovers and do the stuff that was out in the field. They weren't real good at building culture with that type of, with the construction people and with the daily workers, but they were real good at doing the finances. And so that's how I kind of learned from them. They learned from me as well. We ended up buying, I don't know, another 400, 500 units with them guys the next year. And
Mhm.
then we ended up they went their own way. Well, Mike went to go do a hotel, and then, Mike was going to bring them in on a hotel deal. And then we just kind of all went our own way, and we were all crushing it, man. So that was it, man. You just come out of bankruptcy, you do it over and over and over again. Once you understand cap rates and you understand net operating income, you understand the goal. The goal is people are always thinking, man, where are you going to get $1 million to put in that thing? Well, I'm putting $1 million in. I'm raising it. I'm raising the value of $5 million. It's easy
Mhm.
to get. You get a bridge loan. You can get private capital. You can get a bank. They understand what you're doing. Now, where's your track record? Well, I don't have a track record. Well, go find somebody who does.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that that's the thing. So, like, if people are watching, and you're not in real estate, the difference between resident, I mean, you can do it on a residential level, but commercial level, the bank is qualifying the property, the asset, and they're not necessarily qualifying you on a personal level, but they want to know that you have experience. And like you said,
That's right.
you guys, you had gone through bankruptcy, you guys didn't have the money, but you went out and found a deal that cost you nothing. And I tell that to people all the time. When they try to tell me that, like, well, I don't have any money to get in real estate. Well, you don't need any money. What do you have? Well, you got a car, you live in a good market, you're able to drive, you're able to drive around and try to track down a property. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. Then you call me, or they call you, they call somebody else that has experience and says, hey, look, I think this is a deal. Here's the owner's phone number. Let's team up together on this. Again, they're out of pocket nothing. All they're out of is some time. And if it ends up being a deal, just like you guys, you found the right people that had the money, that were ready to go, but they couldn't execute. They couldn't do the boots on the ground, deal with the contractors, manage the renovations, like, a lot of the real work. And so
Mm-hmm.
you guys were a great partnership. And It's the same way that I got my first deal done, right? I was a firefighter paramedic, working a ton of overtime, didn't have any money in the bank. But all I had was a little bit of a home equity line of credit. And I did just like you did. I found another investor that had more experience and time than I did. They were able to provide a lot of the capital. And then, with their track record and my track record of working for somebody for a year, I was able to get the loan done. And you had
Mm-hmm.
experience, you went bankrupt, but there's all kinds of reasons why people go bankrupt. And again, commercial property, they're not necessarily going to look at that. So, I always try to impress on people. There's ways to get it done if you really want to get it done.
There is.
And
There's ways to do anything. I mean, you think about, and it's that. So that deal, we had an offer. We had it under contract for $1 million. We could have sold it for $1.2 million and made 200,000. Right. At the time, I'm broke.
Right.
That's 100,000 for me, 100,000 for Mike. But we were like, nah, let's hold it. We're gonna find a way to get this deal done. We ended up selling that deal off for, I want to say $6 million, $6.6 million, right? And
Yeah,
so
I mean,
we were in it for
work.
What'd you say, buddy?
I said if it needed that much work and the occupancy was that low, it's a lot of work, but that's a diamond right there. You're
Yeah,
going to be
well,
able to.
we bought tons of them. We bought
Yep.
thousands of them like that, and that's over. I mean, all the time. I tell you, man, there's almost not a property in Cincinnati that me, Mike, or one of our partners hasn't done. We've done them all on the west side. Man, we bought almost everything over there. Every apartment complex larger than 20 units, we've all had our hands on it one or two times.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, that like people watching that maybe don't understand commercial real estate is you can explode your growth, you can explode the dollar value. If you're buying something that's 4 units or less, you're kind of on the hook with what the Fed does or the residential real estate market. But when you get into bigger things, like Nate said, if you understand what the net operating income is and you understand what the cap rate is, every decision you make, before you spend the money what that return on that dollar is. So, you put $10 out and you're going to get $25 back because of the cap rate and the NOI. You can kind of take calculated risk on that property.
But the 25 that you're getting back. So if you're putting 10 out, you're getting 25 back on, let's say, net operating income. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm just saying that you can explode the value. But yeah, I mean, go through that. I mean, talk about the net operating income divided by the cap rate and
So
how that all works.
let me break down the toilet for you guys. Let me grab my calculator because I want you guys to get this. You understand this, you won't understand what me and Seth are doing out here driving. Thank you, Matt. All right, so look, our average water bill and we're talking about a unit where you're paying water bill. You guys are doing a lot of rubs now, right?
Yeah.
Do you got everything you're doing rubs on?
No, some of it we don't have it yet, but we're working on it.
So let's say it's a building you're not doing rubs. If you're doing rubs, it's even easier because you just come in and you say, hey, I'm going to push the rent $100 by renovating. Plus, I'm going to charge a tenant $50 a month for water and sewage, right? Well, let's take a toilet. You come through, you do an energy audit. You say, man, that thing's got a 3.5-gallon toilet in it from 1985, right? Original toilet. I see them all the time.
Yep.
Where was I staying? At a hotel the other day. Oh, I was down in Orlando at a hotel, and I'm looking like, I want to buy this hotel just because it has a 3.5-gallon toilet in it because I know that I can make a lot of money changing these toilets out. It was a 300-room Marriott. I didn't want to buy it because I wanted to change the toilets. Here's why I wanted to buy it. So on average, your water and sewage is going to be $60 a month in Cincinnati for a 2-bedroom. So that's $60 a month times 12 months. You guys get your calculator out. Do this, right? So that's $720 a year. By going from a 3.5-gallon toilet to a 1.28, we are going to save 55% of that, right? Yep. But 26% of your water charge is directly correlated to a toilet. So you're going to take the $720 and times that by 0.26. So we're talking about $187 is what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about is segregated that toilet. You understand that, Seth?
Yeah.
The viewers understand that? So we're going to save 55% of that by changing out a toilet. So times 0.55, and that's from going from a 3.5-gallon to a 1.28. You guys don't believe me? Just take 1.28 divided by 3.5. You're going to come up with 55%. Okay. So that's going to be a savings of $102.85. Is that right? Say $102, right?
Yeah.
Now, where does that $102 go? That $102 goes straight to your net operating income. And let's say you did 100 of these. We're talking about one unit. So we're taking $102. What kind of cap rate you want to use for this?
Oh, I don't know. Let's go with Cincinnati. Let's go. I don't know. What, 6.5?
Yep. Okay. Divided by 0.06 and a half. We'll go 6.5. Me and Seth like to be conservative. That's $1,569 I made, right? Now, that's settling it off the net operating income. Why would anybody in their right mind pay me $1,569 for $102 in cash flow? Here's why. Because they're going to go borrow this $1,569 at, what are you getting rates at right now? 5%?
Yeah, somewhere 5.5%.
Okay, so they're going to go borrow this $1,569 at times 0.05%. So they're borrowing that money for $78, but they're making $102. That's simple, guys. That's commercial real estate right there. The more money you can bring to the net operating income, the higher you can get. So this one here, for every dollar you bring to the bottom line, here, let's do the math. $1 divided by a 0.065. Hold on one second. 1 divided by 0.065. $15. For every $1 you can bring is hostage down here to the net operating income. And you could do it through revenue or you could do it through cost savings. You're making $15 on a sale. That's insane. Once you learn that, Seth, the money you can make is unlimited almost, right?
Yep.
Because you know what the goal is.
Yep. And that's just one.
That's a toilet
thing. That's off one toilet.
I did a thing on how I bought a Lamborghini. I didn't get to show you my car collection yesterday, but
I'll just have to come back down for trip 2.
Yeah, come on back down for trip 2, man. You can hang out, brother. I don't know if you smoke cigars. We got a lounge out back, and we have bourbon and cigar parties for Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, especially with the Bengals winning. So
they're doing good this year.
Yeah, they are. So let me know if you want to come down, man. I'll get you a hotel room. I get discounts right around the corner too, brother.
Sounds great. But so that's the thing is that, when I bought my first property, I believed that I could do just what you were saying there. We went in, we changed out the toilets, we put low flow, like reducing things on the faucets, on the tubs, changed out the leaky ones. We, everything that we could do to drive the money that we were losing back to the net operating income. And 14 months later, when we refied, we pulled out a little over $1 million cash.
And no taxes on that, guys. No taxes on that. But guess what? All those water saving devices that he put in, he got to write them off against his taxes, right?
Yep.
Even though he probably borrowed that money from the bank, a lot of that money from the bank, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing. And you do one deal and it's life changing. And that's what I mean is that if you're listening or you're interested in this stuff, it's like you don't have to know it all in order to get involved. You just have you have to just kind of fill a role. Either fill a role by finding the deal is usually an easy one for people to do, a very low barrier to entry. Or if nothing else, just be hanging out with people that are doing it. Get around the people that are doing these things. Get around Nate, get around me, get around, attend the events, attend the real estate meetups. Because when you get around the people that are doing these things, it just rubs off on you. You got to change your circumstance. You got to change your circle of influence.
Mm-hmm.
And that, right? If you'd have gotten out of jail and went back to hanging out with the same crew, you'd have been probably back in the same place again.
That's right.
But when you realized real estate was kind of like your answer or what you wanted to do, you had to start seeking out people that were doing real estate.
That's exactly right, brother.
That's
and you talk about that. You will likely become the sum of the 5 people around you, right? That means everything. We're talking finances. We're talking, health wise. We're talking everything. Negative energy, positive energy. You're going to become the 5 people that are closest to you.
Yep. 100%. And it's interesting too, because I feel like as you start getting around different people and you start elevating your mindset, you start changing the way that you view money, you view life, you view family, you view whatever it is, like it starts changing you from the inside. And it's like, you go back to those old conversations or those old groups of friends and you realize that you really don't have a whole lot in common with them anymore. And I'm sure
And
that you found that as you've kind of have elevated your life, elevated your mindset,
yep.
it's hard to go back to the people that are stuck in the same old thing from 2, 3, 5 years ago, whatever the case may be.
Well, what's the old saying? They say, man, you changed. Well, yeah, you think I worked this hard to stay the same? It's like, yeah, you changed. That doesn't mean that you changed in a bad way, but nah, man, you got to move forward. You got to progress, and you will become the sum of the 5 people you hang around with. So if you're the people you're hanging around with, you don't want to be. Now, that don't mean you can't deal with those people, but that means that if you want to do better, you got to get around better people.
Yep. So with that in mind, how do people get like what are you I know you've got the Burr Academy, you've got a conference coming up in Cincinnati if you're local to Central Ohio. If not, and you want to fly in, hey, it's
Man, we
around
got
the
people
corner.
coming from the islands, brother.
Yeah,
Like
well,
I
I
got,
know you got people already. I'm saying if someone's listening to
yep.
today, it's what, a week and a half, 2 weeks away.
Yeah,
But
it's September the 13th, 14th, and 15th. Man, it's going to be amazing. You're coming, ain't you?
I hope so. We're actually going to Salt Lake City, Utah on the 15th. We leave and we're going out there. But I think we're going to try to come down on the 14th.
Awesome, brother. That'd
But
be
but
awesome.
so even outside of that, like talk about your Burr Academy. Like, how are you teaching people how to do this? How are you? Because we talked about this yesterday with when I was in the fire service and teaching fire school and medic school, and I just loved watching the light bulb come on for new people, and I love it now. I mean, Tim and I love it. Trying to help people, like you said, it changed your life, it changed my life. We want to try to continue to get that good news out there. How do
Yep.
people, if they jive with what you're saying, how do they get a hold of you? How do they learn from you? How do they get into the circle where they can learn more from you?
Yeah, so we got a free group that's on Facebook. We got I think 225,000 people in there. That's Burr Invest, BRRRR Invest. And we also have an academy if you guys are interested in that too. But the main thing is when you're buying real estate, and look, I need to tell everybody something. Everybody that's watching this, you're buying real estate or you've bought real estate. You may not be buying it for yourself. If you're renting, you're buying it for somebody else. So I need you to just understand the way real estate works, man. And we explain that to them. We show them what areas they should buy in, how to manage a construction, how to deal with bankers, right? Bankers actually need you. So we've had after people watch my bankers video, I had 2 people that I remember. One of them went in there. He said, I went in there confident, like, man, you need me. And he said the banker like gave him gave him some private lenders numbers and was like, nah, man, we'll do it. And I got these guys, and it's all about networking, going in and talking to people.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one thing I think for me early on that I learned was that every bank has an appetite for specific properties or specific loans. They have a box. And so now, after that very first deal, I learned like when I'm starting a relationship with a new bank, that's the first thing I ask them, like, what do you guys have an appetite for? What do you want to lend into? What do you like? And then if I come across something that I know, hey, this bank likes these types of properties,
Yep.
that's who I take it to. And like you said, I mean, people don't understand that most people use them for a checking account, savings account, cash my check, credit card, whatever. But every bank is a little bit different. Like Chase Bank, for instance, they want nothing to do with real estate. They don't
Yep.
want to lend on properties or that's not their bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of community banks where you go to, they're $1 million. If you get over $1 million loan, they want to bring in a supplemental bank. And it's a lot harder for them to want to put all their eggs in one basket because $1 million loan for a community bank or a credit union, that's a big loan for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's, like you said, I know there's that stuff that you teach people is like, go to these banks, this is how you
Well,
navigate that.
think about it like this. The bank hires people and pays them money to lend money out. So, and then people say, well, the banks don't want to lend money. What the hell are they hiring all these people to lend money out for? Those people get fired if they don't loan out money. They actually get paid to loan out money, to give out money. So you got to change your mindset about who that guy is. Man, that guy gets paid to give out money. You just got to figure out why he's not giving it to you. Then you got to fix your balance sheet. You got to fix your paperwork, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you're bringing them a bad deal. You find out what it is, and they're going to give you money.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, now, and I'm sure you're the same way. We have lenders calling us, tracking us down, wanting to get coffee or have lunch or get on the phone or do whatever because they want our business. They know we can close. They know we can execute. And
Yep.
like you said, they're getting commissions on the loans. So,
Mm-hmm.
you get to a point where they're tracking you down. So, no, I
That's
think it's
right.
great. I don't think we got any other questions. So, at the moment, but Yeah, I mean, so like, where are you guys at now? I know you talked to me about doing a development here in Columbus. You guys got a couple hotels you're looking at. You got a couple. I know you got a hotel here in Columbus. It's funny because I used to go into that hotel quite a bit for when I was on the job, fire alarms and EMS calls and whatever. I always remember going into that hotel. It was one of the ones that was in our run district, and then I think like several years ago when I first heard of you and Mike, I was always laugh because I'm like, I'm standing in your hotel knowing who owns this, and so it's great. But I know you guys are looking at buying another one out this way. And so
Yep.
what's it look like for you guys on the real estate side of things? Like what's your 5-year plan or your 3-year plan? Like, what's that look like?
Yeah, so we have a goal to get to $1 billion worth of assets over the next 3 years. Primarily going to be hotels. Apartments are good right now, but hotels are really what I like because you can grow a lot quicker. Um, and they bring in a lot of revenue. I was just looking at one on my last podcast, and I think it's done 336,000 so far this month. That's one hotel. And so that's an okay month. That's not a killer month. A killer month for that hotel would be 550. And so it brings in a lot more revenue, and you can pay people a lot more money than in apartments. And so they manage that stuff. You don't have to deal with the day to day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you guys clean up quite a bit after COVID? I mean, I know that the hotel industry was hit pretty hard with COVID. Did you guys feel like it was easier to find deals or distressed ones that people were running into?
We actually thought we were going to be able to buy 100 hotels during COVID when COVID happened. We were like,
Mm-hmm.
man, we're going to buy 100 hotels. Well, guess what? Didn't happen. The market didn't fall apart. People were buying the mortgage notes on these properties for 96 cents on a dollar. Like
Hmm.
it just didn't happen. They were paying
Yeah.
retail for the mortgage notes on failed properties because hotels typically trade, 150, 200, 300 basis points higher than apartments because they're a different animal. They're more of a business blended, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we thought it was going to fall apart, but there was so much money out here and the money just started coming. And I think that, you'll start to see that as the market starts to pull back. So we're opportunist buyers. I'm not in a rush to get to this certain number that's $1 billion. If we get there, great. If we pass it, great. If we don't, I don't really care. I don't have to do another deal the rest of my life, and life is good.
Mm-hmm.
And, I really just want to focus more on educating people, helping people become millionaires, traveling with my wife, traveling with my kids, enjoying life.
Yeah, I think that's great that you said that because that's you can if you're following real estate on social media, a lot of times I feel like guys are, they're putting a contract on something over here and then over there, and then they're like traveling all over the place. They're making it look like they're buying up all this stuff, and not that people aren't, but we've always said that we would rather have 1,000, 10,000, whatever the end number ends up being. We would rather have 5,000 units, but we want them to be 5,000 of the right units. And if that
Yep.
takes us 10 years, then it takes us 10 years. But, you know, anybody can go overpay for a property, as you know, and they're going to win.
Yeah,
And it doesn't
anybody can
necessarily,
go overpay and syndicate capital, but right now, I feel like the cap rates have not compressed. I haven't seen enough compression and decompression in the cap rates right now to justify wanting to jump in and buy
Mhm.
because the interest rates shot up 200 basis points and cap rates haven't moved yet, really. And so
Right.
I think we're going to see a move in that. Now, for stuff like you and me, what we buy, it doesn't really matter. People say, what kind of cap rate do you buy? Man, I don't typically the buildings I buy are losing money. I don't really care about a cap rate. I care about where can I get this thing to, right?
Yep.
And everybody, and that's the first thing they say, what kind of cap rates do you buy? I'm like, well, that's not how us real estate investors really view property, for the most part. Now, the
Mhm.
ones like you're talking about that just buy cap rates, that's different. But we're buying something that is losing 10 grand a month and we're taking over somebody else's problem to come in and cure it or fix it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's really it. If when we look at something, we have to see a clear plan to get from where it's at today to where we think it can go. What's the plan? And if the plan works, then we move forward and, that's a clear path. But, and there are some properties that we've looked at where, it's not very often, but where you offer on something and then you can start digging into it more and you're like, man, there's way more CapEx or way more structural issues or way more things. And then you got to go back and say, look, we got to talk about this because, that's something that we're just recently on the deal that we're in right now that we realized. It was actually the call that I had when I left your house yesterday was
Yeah.
that conversation because the deal presented one way, and then when we got into it, it kind of showed to be something else. And so, hey, we got to sit back down and talk, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But
Yeah, but either way, you don't care. And that's the thing,
right,
guys. Don't care about the deals. Like don't take forever to procrastinate and get one. But if one falls out, who cares? Would you rather buy that deal and be stuck with all those problems that you don't have the money for? The deal has to make sense, and it give you a good return on your time.
yeah, 100%. Yep. So, well, yeah, I mean, like I said, if people are listening and they're interested, I've got your website for the academy up that people can go log into or go check out that website and they can sign up for that and see if it's something that they're interested in. And then if you guys want to know more about Nate and kind of learn more of his story or connect with him directly, natebarger.com is his website. I got that on the bottom there. And yeah, if you're in the Cincinnati or Columbus area and you didn't know about the conference, I know you guys still have tickets on sale for that. I think the VIP ones are gone, but you
Yep.
guys are still selling tickets for that.
Yeah, we moved into the biggest room they had, so I think we got some. We'd sold out, but we had to open up some more. We're in a big room down there. VIP sold out. We're selling virtual tickets. Man, it's going to be amazing, brother. We got over 20 speakers who have done over $5 billion worth of deals. It's going to be amazing, man. And we got parties every night too. So party networking, you're going to come in and hang out and party with millionaires.
Yeah. And that's the thing is the networking, like I can't emphasize that enough is getting in the right room with the right people. If you're working like for me, if you're at the firehouse and you're listening and you're just like, man, this sounds crazy. Like, maybe you knew me or you knew, of my story, or like you knew Nate and you've seen where he's gone. Like it can happen, but it can't happen if you keep hanging out with the same people you've always hung out with.
That's right.
So you got to get in the right rooms. And this is a great opportunity. Check out the investmentacademy.com and sign up for it if you think it's something for you. So
thank you, brother. I appreciate
absolutely, man. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, so I'll kind of wind it down here, but I thank you for jumping on with us, and I look forward to coming back down and catching up with you in Cincinnati again.
Seth, thank you so much, man. I can't wait to have you down here, brother. Bourbon and cigars, man. We had that every Monday night football or Thursday. We're going to rotate it. So I'll make sure I send you the invite. I know you're kind of far away, but if you want to come down,
I'll come down and get a hotel room for that. That'd be a good time.
Man, it's a good time. It's all real estate guys hanging out for the most part. And people from the academy too. I got some local people from the academy that are crushing it, and they come over sometimes as well. So
awesome. Very good. Well, I appreciate your time, Nate. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot, man. God bless you.
Thanks.
You have an amazing time. Everybody. And thank you guys for viewing in.